Hello, this is Small Biz David. I don't know if you heard the beginning. Hello, this is Small Biz David, and welcome to this Monday edition of Dreaming with Entrepreneurs in Google Plus. I'm starting a little bit early today. The reason being that in about an hour, a little over an hour, I'm going to be taking my 10-month-old granddaughter, who is visiting the United States from Rome, to the zoo. I my kids have actually been in the United States for a little over 2 weeks now. Precious Eloise brought her mother and father to uh, be a part of her Uncle Jordan getting married 2 weeks ago. And so they've been in Knoxville and South Carolina for the last couple of weeks, and they're going to spend the next couple of days here in Cincinnati. And so we're going to go to the zoo this afternoon. How excited am I about that? But I wanted to share with you this morning. Well, it's this morning in Cincinnati Eastern Daylight Time right now. Something that has actually been on my mind for several years, but I really I've done a little bit here and there, but really have not launched the major initiative that I wanted to do a couple years ago. I've been doing a lot of things and uh, targeted towards students of entrepreneurship, with the idea being that our students are certainly the future of entrepreneurship in this country, in the world, wherever. And I, as I said, I've been doing a lot of things, but never anything that was uh, specifically focused in a program kind of format. Last week, a community member, Mark Farashi, sent me an article, and lo and behold, it explained everything that I wanted to do. So I said, you know what? Now is the time to do it. Specifically, I'm talking about building a program targeted toward students of entrepreneurship. And we're going to formally launch this program in the community this coming Friday. It's Friday the 13th. What a great day to launch a new project, Friday the 13th. At 10:30, I think, or 11:30 Eastern Daylight Time. I think it's probably 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And we're going to get things going, and I'm going to encourage all of the members of the community to bring their children or other students of entrepreneurship that they know, so that together we can pursue the different aspects of entrepreneurship, pursue the different aspects of starting a business, and hopefully within the community, because of what we are doing at that time, there will be new businesses started. I remember maybe 20 years ago, it's been that long already, I was listening to a motivational speaker. It was in the 90s, so it was at least 20 years ago. Well, it's more than 20 years ago if it was in the early 90s, but whatever. But time flies when you're having fun. The speaker said that maybe the greatest gift that we could give our children was the dream, the ability to dream, the environment where dreams could be initiated, and maybe if successful, the dreams could actually take form, take action, make something happen. This has always been a very, very important part of my thinking as time goes on. And I will have to say, well, for over 40 years that I've been a small business owner, I've always operated my small business out of my home, wherever that might be. Subsequently, those living in my home, in the home, our home, family home, at the time were subject to whatever was going on in my business. And that is a very, very challenging idea in and of itself. Because if you're going to operate a business out of your home, you must have the support of everyone who lives in that home to make things work. Fortunately, that has pretty much been the case of my life. And my sons, who are doing their adult thing now, both are in marketing kinds of opportunities, totally different. And I would have to say that probably the fact that they watched a father who was in marketing and sales had some type of impact upon their lives. It's very important. And uh, I actually, uh, in as I was getting older, not well, I've always had exposure to entrepreneurship. My grandfather was a small business owner, a very successful small business owner, and my father uh, was a small business owner. Actually, when I was a young child, he had a small business, but I was really too young to know too much about it because the business was probably about 20 miles from our home. What I do remember very vividly as a child was waiting for my father to get onto our street with his truck, and a small truck, small pickup truck, and I would jump in the back of the truck and get a ride up the hill to our home. That was in the early part of my life, and it wasn't until I was a teenager, actually in 1967, the year that I graduated from high school. My father actually started two businesses in the same year. Pretty bizarre, but he did so. One of them he bought, so it was an ongoing business. So he didn't actually start the business. He bought a business and adapted that business to how he was going to grow and develop it. It was a publishing business, which actually plays into my life. And he started another business that was an extension of my grandfather's business, and my grandfather actually was very instrumental in helping my father start that business. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial type environment, never thinking, really, never thinking that, boy, I wanted to necessarily have my own business. As I went to college, even, that never was, I did things along the way, but it was never necessarily a big part of my thinking. And then my father passed away when I was 23 years old. And when I was 24 years old, I actually bought my father's business from my mother because my grandfather told me that's what I was going to do. And I did it. Um, I've got to take this one quick second. Hello? Hello, I'm doing a live internet show, but what's going on? Well, no, that's okay. I saw it was you, so that's why I took the phone. Okay, and you said you're in Lexington. Okay, I'll see you when you get here. Bye. That was my son. And, sorry for that, but I saw it was his number, and I needed to take it. He's on the road driving to Cincinnati right now. So at age 24, I was heavily involved in a business because I bought a business from my mother for actually $10,000, not even knowing uh, what $10,000 actually meant, but that's what my grandfather told me I was going to do, and that's what I did. I haven't looked back since, and it was absolutely the uh, most significant thing in terms of my career, if you will, that has happened to me in my life. You've heard me often talk, well, share with you the Entrepreneur's Pledge. I do this every 6 weeks. I actually read the pledge, relate to the pledge, and uh, inherent in the pledge, in the Entrepreneur's Pledge, is my commitment to mentor, to tell my story, to share my successes and failures, to give back to the society that helped me to be successful in my small businesses. So that is also within the spirit of what it is that I am doing and why I'm doing it. So, my friend Mark sent me a great article, Nurturing the Entrepreneurial Spirit. And it was an article written by the Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education. The individual who actually started the consortium was from Ohio State University, and I haven't done any research to find if Albert Shapiro is still living, but if he is, I'm going to make every effort to get him involved in this project. And he says, and I quote, entrepreneurs are not born, rather, they become through the experiences of their lives. Oh, I see. I do see he died in 1985. I see that right now. Well, I'm going to contact the consortium, and I will do it actually with the assistance of my son Jordan, who lives in Columbus, and in fact is a graduate of the Ohio State School of Management, Business Management, and Marketing. This consortium exists, and they have a very structured environment, which I am studying right now, and we are going to uh, put together our own effort. So I am going to encourage members of our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs and Google Plus community to get involved, and to get involved either with their children, bringing them to Hangouts on Air and participating, and or other students of entrepreneurship who may or may not be actually related to them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's that whole concept of small business owners mentoring students of entrepreneurship. So I cordially invite any members of the community to get involved, to bring their children, bring their students of entrepreneurship, and anybody who will do this, if they would like to actually be on our panel, and I could have 9 folks, if they get involved and bring their children or students and want to be on our panel so that they will be visible to anybody coming to the Hangout on Air, if they let me know, we'll make that happen. But I want to share with you 12 thoughts today, and we're going to talk around these and relate to these. These are 12, what do they actually call them? The Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education believes. In meetings with entrepreneurs across the years, the consortium has established the following concepts that we believe are the basic foundation for the importance of entrepreneur education. So we will formulate all of our thinking around these ideas. So here we go. Number 1, entrepreneurs are not born. They become through the experiences of their lives. I showed you in my own personal way how that's so very true. Number 2, entrepreneurs have a great diversity of personal characteristics. The common one, and here we go, being willing to take a risk in return for a profit. This whole concept of risk, it's interesting how just today 2 or 3 different articles about the entrepreneurial risk were brought to my individual attention just today. And I guess risk is the one of the discussions of the day. And my friend Mark actually used that expression, risk, because he is starting a business. And so he used the word risk. And I responded to him by saying, you know, Mark, I guess I'm very, very fortunate because I very naively at age 24 bought a business, paid a lot of money for it, but never really thought about risk. I was too naive. So the concept of risk has never, ever been a part of my mindset in all the various things that I have done in the last 40 plus years. Risk for me is just a way of life. So I don't have that fear of risk because it's what I do what I have to do. I set goals and objectives for the various business ideas that I have, and that's the journey I take. That's my roadmap, those goals and objectives, and creating a plan of how I'm going to achieve those goals and objectives. It's not that difficult. Number 3, anybody can be an entrepreneur at any time in one's life. Good one. Number 4, although there is no educational degree requirement to become an entrepreneur, it is helpful to have developed good support skills, including communications, interpersonal abilities, economic understanding, digital skills, marketing, management, and math and finance skills. Let's talk about that one for a moment. I know for a fact, and I want to see if anybody's actually asking any questions here. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Oh, there is a question. Let me take that question here, but let me do this. I've got to set my screens up a little bit differently. Nick Musch, M-U-S-C-H, asks, should I open a business in New York City? I'm 17 and plan. I can't read his whole question here. I'm 17 and plan to do it right when I graduate. Uh, Nick, great question. My answer to that question would be, it's kind of funny. I actually tried an entrepreneurial thing in New York very, very early in my career. It was back in 1973 in the publishing world. And I had an opportunity. I actually had a partner in the particular project. Actually, the partner was putting up all the money. I was just going to do the whatever needed to be done. And I said, you know what? If you can do it in New York City, you can do it anywhere in the world. With all the people there are in New York, with all the opportunity there are in New York, with all the things that happen in New York, there are so many resources. Uh, my answer to you, Nick, is yes, go for it. And if you need any help whatsoever, ask me questions, and I will lead you. If I don't have an exact answer based upon experience, I will head you in the right direction to find the resource that will help you to do what you need to do. Also, have some friends in New York uh, that might be able to help you. And Carrie says, you are a very pleasant speaker. Well, thank you, Carrie. An understandable teacher. Well, thank you again. Please talk somewhere, if you want, of course, about how we navigate. And once again, I got to move the screen over. How we navigate this growing minefield of regulation created to destroy entrepreneurial endeavor. I don't. Um, agree with you, Carrie, 100%. But I know exactly what you are saying. There is a minefield of regulation, no question about it. But it is navigable. Uh, the regulation is not necessarily put in place to destroy the entrepreneurial endeavor. It is put in place to challenge the entrepreneurial endeavor. Yes, there are a lot of regulations. In some industries, too much regulation. And another response to that would be if you find yourself in an area where there is a lot of regulation, then do something else if you cannot deal with those regulations. I don't feel that at all. And I've never felt that in anything that I've done. I was in publishing. I did a lot of direct mail, a lot of direct marketing in the 80s, in the 90s. I was in the teleservices business, and there were regulations in the teleservices business, but we worked around them and dealt with them. And in about 2000 is really when I started to do internet kinds of things. And in a sense, there are some regulations on the internet, but as I said back in um, the early 2000 years, that the internet was the wild, wild west, wilder than anything that I had ever done in my life. And I don't think it has been tempered in any way. I think that there are constantly challenges. Don't worry about being late, Preston. You are never late to anything that I do. There's no such thing as being late. Uh, People often say to me, and I say this a little bit sarcastically, I teach an exercise. I teach 6 exercise classes a week. And people will apologize to me for coming late to the class, and they know that there is no such thing. And I tell them, you are never late for an exercise class, period. You might not get there at the time we started, but you are never late. So that's kind of you to think that you were late, Preston, but no such thing in this world of being late. Carrie says, I'll give you an example of what I mean. It's easy. Here, let's see what Carrie has to say so we can deal with that regulation thing. Carrie says, I'll give you an example of what I mean. It's easier to use subcontractors than to have employees. You know what, Carrie? That's a great point. It's a point that that I live by. Let me tell you about this. Back in 1978, I started a magazine, and up until 1978, and I was in the publishing business, I only had the equivalent of maybe 1 employee. And when I say maybe, I had a lot of folks who were doing part-time things for me. If you added them all together, they were a full-time employee. But I think what you're saying, Carrie, is that there's a whole lot of regulations with having employees. And yes, you are absolutely right about that. I actually made the decision in 1979. I had a staff of 15 employees. I went from 1 employee, which was 3 different people, to 15 employees, where I had to provide a paycheck. I think I did it every 2 weeks. I don't remember if it was every week or every 2 weeks. Whatever it was, I actually did not enjoy the experience of having that as a challenge to what my business objective was. I was spending too much time, my own time, doing things that had to be done because I was the owner of the business, but not spending enough time on those things that were things that I do best. Managing people is not one of my stronger suits. Motivating people is a strong suit. Managing them and all the things that go along with managing them has never been a strong suit. So in 1979, I made the decision, and this relates exactly to what you were saying and asking, that whatever I did for the rest of my life, I would never have employees doing it for me. But when I found a task in my business that needed to be done, had to be done, if I could find somebody who would do it more efficiently than I could do it, then I would hire that people. You call them subcontractors, and in fact they are. They're 1099 folks who are subcontractors. That's the decision that I made for myself. So since 1979, I've never had an employee, but I have hired a lot of subcontractors, 1099 folks, to do tasks for me when they could do them more efficiently than I could. So that really is a very important lesson of entrepreneurship. Okay, let's go on to our next point. Number 5, entrepreneurial ventures are the major source of new jobs in the economy for the owner and for new employees. OMG. how important that is. Just last week, officially there were a little over 200,000 new jobs created in the economy in the month of May. Whereas it is an improvement over the previous month and certainly a movement in the right direction, it is not where we need to be to get our economy back to where it was about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, and I started talking about this 4 years ago because it had a very important impact on our economy, an impact on our entrepreneurial thinking. The Kauffman Foundation in Kansas City, about 4 years ago, did a very detailed study, and nobody does studies of entrepreneurship and research better than the Kauffman Foundation. They are number one. That's Kauffman, KAUFFMAN.org. I highly recommend you to go to their website. There are many, many resources available to entrepreneurs at their website. They made a statement 4 years ago that if our economy was going to get back to what I called a sense of normalcy, we had to create 300,000 new jobs every month for a period of 36 months. Has not been done, not even close. We've had months where there hasn't even been 75,000 new jobs created in the last 4 years. New businesses create at least 65% of all new jobs created in this country. New businesses do. If we're the only way new jobs get created is well, not the only way. Businesses might expand, create new jobs because they have higher goals and objectives that must be met. So it takes more people involved in that business organization to create those increases in whatever it is they want to do. More units, more profit, more whatever. That in and of itself is not happening. And what has happened in the last 4 years is a direct challenge to this and to Kerry's statement about regulation. What has happened is that when businesses began to scale back, created layoffs, created unemployment 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, they found, which is always done every time people lay people off, fire people, whatever it is, it happens every time, that they find new efficiencies in their business to create the productivity that they need to move their business forward. It happens every single time. So what has happened is all those businesses that laid off are not hiring new folks necessarily. Some are, many aren't. One of the reasons why they are not hiring new folks, and it's the most impactful reason that I have ever seen, is the healthcare regulations in this country. The Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act says that if your small business employs at least 50 people, you must provide health care, a health care program, a mandated health care program which says it's got to do this, this, and this, or you are going to be in violation. It was not that we shouldn't be providing health care for our employees. I don't think I've ever met an employer who did not want to provide health care for their employees. It's the cost of providing that health care that has made it prohibitive for many small businesses. Do you know how healthcare became a part of employment? How, when it was that employers actually decided that they would provide healthcare for their employees? I'm looking for an answer. Raise your hand. Preston, what do you think the answer to that question is? The answer to that question is that healthcare as a benefit to an employee of a company became popular at the end of World War II, so that employers looking for employees could hire the soldiers. And one of the things that would differentiate them from other folks, because they needed employees, would be the fact that they were providing health care as a benefit. It started back at the end of World War II. Today, it is the most challenging thing that a small business must think about and address. We have not seen the full impact of what it means to small businesses yet. We've seen a lot of small businesses that have decreased the number of hours that people work for them, so that they are not full-time employees that they have to provide health care benefits for. That's not a very good answer, but it's realistic because of the fact that if small businesses absolutely had to provide that health care and they sold something, they might have to double the price of what it is that they sold to cover the new cost of providing health care. Does that make sense? Nope. Bullseye on the Affordable Care Act from Kerry. And that's what Preston was going to say. Let me see. Everything, not you know that more than I did. Interesting. That's when it all got started, Preston, and it's being redefined. It's being redefined as we sit here. So yes, Carrie, there are those regulations, and Affordable Care Act is one of those regulations that is really hurting small business. So we have to redefine how that's all going to work. Another interesting statement, and I've gotten some very interesting feedback on it. A statement that I made last week was that Seattle, Washington, and I have a couple friends that live in Seattle, folks that I met here in Hangouts on Air. In Seattle, they created a new regulation that says the minimum wage is $15 an hour plus. Now, in Ohio, where I live, if the minimum wage were mandated to be $15 an hour, we would see the total destruction of small businesses. However, my friends in Seattle, and they're entrepreneurs, they are all in favor of that legislation. Not necessarily that they're paying that to employees, because two people that I have in mind don't have employees, but I am sure they have, as I was mentioning to Carrie, 1099 subcontractors who provide work for them at an agreed upon price. There's not an hourly wage necessarily worked into that mindset. So all those things are relative. Regulations, where you live, the cost of doing business, the cost of living, all of those things need to be factored into the equation. Entrepreneurship is not learned by reading a textbook and then taking a test to prove you are one. Absolutely. I've had a lot of fun with this one, actually. I'm very close friends with he's the former, he started the entrepreneurship department at the University of Cincinnati. Somewhere I've got a certificate that he gave me because he asked me to lecture his class, his graduate class on entrepreneurship. I've never taken a business course in my life. I've never taken a course in entrepreneurship in my life. I've learned by doing. I've learned. I'm a product of the streets, is how I like to say it. So I heartily agree. You don't necessarily learn entrepreneurship, but you learn about entrepreneurship. And in fact, I've had this discussion with my friend Chuck Matthews, Dr. Charles Matthews, that until recently, and I don't really know what this, well, the situation can't be 100% improved, but up until very, very recently, a lot of the professors of entrepreneurship in colleges and universities never were small business owners themselves. They were academicians. They didn't have a business. So they were textbook schooled in their understanding, in their learning, in the message that they communicated with the students of entrepreneurship. Yes, there's value to that, but there is more value to actually being an entrepreneur and sharing those experiences with other folks who want to become entrepreneurs themselves. In fact, my friend Chuck Matthews, who started that department at the University of Cincinnati, he comes from a family of entrepreneurs and spent time in business himself, so he could share the experiences realistically. And I see Carrie has another question. Let me take a look at it. Couldn't we collectively band together and create networks to overcome these challenges together? We make ourselves as independent as possible. Carrie, if you go read what I have said about this community, Dreaming with Entrepreneurs in Google Plus, I've said that precisely what you're asking. You are talking about the concept of collaboration. Collaboration is the most important concept of small business right now, the future and the success of small business, because we have to work together to help each other. You help me with my business because there's some value you can bring to my business. I help you with your business because there's some value I can bring to your business. So we are helping each other grow each other's business. And together we form a new entity, a new force in the universe, if you will, that can help other businesses in the challenges that they have. So yes, we can, not only couldn't we are, Carrie. That is the purpose, the underlying purpose of this community is that spirit of collaboration. And Preston has also addressed that. Thank you, Preston, for addressing that. Okay. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, let's put that over there. Next point. Young people can build confidence in their abilities to become entrepreneurs in their future as a result of a variety of entrepreneurial activities provided throughout education. Yes. And we are going to help those young people build that confidence. That is the purpose of why I'm taking the direction with the community that I want to take, to help the students, to help them learn, to help them build the confidence, to motivate them, and to mentor them with the 40 plus years of experiences that I have. I'm obligated to do that. I sincerely believe that. I have to give back to the society, to the community, to the world that has helped me be successful to get to where I am today. That's inherent in the pledge of entrepreneurship. Okay. Entrepreneurship education activities are a real-life vehicle for developing academic skills. I think we've already talked about that. Number 9, entrepreneurship education enables employees to be more successful as a result of understanding the operations of a small business and the problems of their boss. Absolutely. That's the purpose of what we're going to be doing, to get folks who are involved in small business together with their children or with other students of entrepreneurship, and we shall move forward. Preston is asking a question here. Is there a reason we are not in the Hangout with an invite? No, not really, Preston. It got started, and I just did it. And I actually, well, you didn't come in the beginning. I started earlier. I thought I was going to end earlier because my granddaughter is on her way to Cincinnati as we speak. My 10-month-old granddaughter, I'm going to take her to the zoo. So I didn't go through the process of inviting as I typically do. But there, if you go to the events for Friday, the event stream, you will see that people will be invited on Friday. I am not, Preston, I'm not going to be doing a community meeting on Saturday this week because I have to drive to Columbus at that time so that I can spend a couple hours with my sons, their wives, and my granddaughter before everybody disperses in different directions. So that's going to happen on Saturday when we typically have a community meeting. Okay. Number 10, entrepreneurs are found in every occupation or career cluster. Absolutely. Number 11, entrepreneurship education opportunities are important at all levels of education, from experiences for elementary school children through skill development for existing entrepreneurs. Absolutely. You heard me say, I've worked with students in elementary schools, I've worked with students in high schools, I've worked with students in colleges and universities. So there are students at every single level. We want them all to get involved. Carrie, I will also invite you to become a member of our community if you're not already a member. Our membership is almost exceeding 200 now. And finally, number 12, the definition of entrepreneurship success varies with reaching the goals of the individual, from part-time income to fast-growing corporate structures. Yes, success is measured in different ways, and success is not necessarily about money. I'm saying that. Money has not been a motivating force for me. What has been a motivating force for me personally is the ability to come and go whenever, however I please. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Yes, it takes a certain level of income to provide for the needs of your family. Always cognizant of that. But it's not the fact that I wanted to make millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, I haven't made millions of dollars in my lifetime. but I have made enough to pay the bills and move forward. Two sons went to college. Just did the things that I had to do as a parent. But money has never, for me, has never been a success measuring factor. The fact that I am still doing, still on the journey that I started over 40 years ago, and believe me, I have had some terrible, terrible experiences and made some very, very bad decisions along the way. I made the worst business decision I ever made 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. The worst one I ever made. There are reasons I did what I did. I should not have done what I did in retrospect, but as we know, hindsight is the best kind of sight to have because hopefully you've learned by your experiences. But I survived, and I'm here today. I wasn't going to let it totally destroy me. It's the biggest mistake that I ever made, no question about it. And I did it for reasons, and as I look back, I wouldn't make the same decisions that I made. They were bad ones, but hey, life does go on, and you can survive. And I think it's that spirit of survival that is also very inherent in entrepreneurs, in meeting the challenges and moving their lives forward. Let me see. I see Preston has made a couple other comments. So it was not a good idea. I was late. It wasn't a good idea. It wasn't a bad idea. As I said, Preston, there is no such thing as being late, particularly in the world of Google Hangouts on Air. If you're late, you can always go back and catch the information in the event stream. I post them in our community, so you can always go to the community and find them, or you can find them on all of my HOAs. Go to I have two YouTube channels. One that's called Small Biz David in quotation marks, and one that's called David F. Small Biz David in quotation marks Leopold. I have two different channels. I have over 750 YouTubes in those channels. Last week, if you were with me, you heard me proudly say that I've had over 20,000 views to all of those YouTubes cumulatively. Some people thought I was meaning to one. No. I think the most views I've had to a YouTube video might be 350 or 400 views. But I don't even pay attention. That's not important. What is important to me is that every single day, 30 to 50 people go to one of my two YouTube channels to watch a video. I look at it as my video library, and you're just taking a video off the shelf and watching it and then putting it back when you're done. And it's worked out wonderfully well. Those were my goals and objectives for establishing those two channels. The wedding went 99% well, Preston. I'll talk with you privately what a challenge that we had in the wedding. Actually, there were two challenges, and we transcended both of them. It was a wonderful wedding, and I will be with both of my sons and their families on Saturday, so we'll get caught up with all that information. It's time to say goodbye. Interesting. Boy, it was time went pretty fast today. Please take a look at the events so that you can. I try to do something every day. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Obviously, you see it when I do because I put an announcement during the week. Uh, as I said, I either post something into my event stream or I do an HOA, which gets into my event stream, gets it as a YouTube. You will always see me saying or doing something every single day. Most of the time, I try to do HOAs and which become YouTubes. It doesn't always happen, but most of the time it does. So we'll see you the next time, which may very well be the best time. See you then.